switch to French. Cette amitié franco-kenyane n'est pas feinte, Monsieur le Président, et vous le savez, cher William. Elle s'explique d'abord par une vision que nos deux pays ont en partage, qui est celle d'un ordre international ouvert, fondé sur la règle de droit, attaché à un multilatéralisme efficace. Et la variété des accords que nous venons de signer l'a parfaitement montré. Je n'oublie pas non plus, non simplement votre présence, mais votre engagement à l'été 2023, lorsque nous avons signé à Paris le pacte pour la prospérité des peuples et de la planète, où vous avez été un dirigeant particulièrement efficace pour bousculer les institutions internationales et arriver à des solutions concrètes. Je sais à quel point le Kenya s'efforce, par votre entremise, de faire entendre la voix de l'Afrique dans l'élaboration de solutions internationales, durables, pour un continent évidemment si jeune, mais dont la jeunesse est une chance, et qu'il s'agisse d'architecture financière internationale, de climat, d'agriculture, d'infrastructures, d'éducation, vous êtes toujours aux avant-postes. Et ces impératifs, la France les soutient, vous le savez. Aux côtés du Kenya, nous travaillons sur cet agenda, et il s'incarne d'abord par la relation bilatérale. Nos deux pays ont une relation exemplaire à bien des égards sur l'ensemble de ces sujets. C'est d'abord et avant tout un partenariat qui est équilibré. Le Kenya brille par ses talents, de l'athlétisme à la musique, nous l'avons encore vu récemment.
In the digital economy, which attracts many French stakeholders, and this has been proven in the facts. So the past few years, in 2012, there were only 35 French companies had invested in your country, and we have 140 today with 36,000 direct jobs. When I look at the past 3 decades, we have roughly 3 billion euros invested, and over the last decade, this was 1.8 billion euros invested by France, and today we signed for an amount of over 1 billion euros of French investments. So we've managed to build something together, which is a new relationship, which I think, and you reminded us of the content, is there to live up to your challenges. We want to invest in human capital, and that's the idea between the investments we want to make at the University of Nairobi, the university, Mr. President, your alma mater, of course, for which we would like to support the building of a new building complex for science and engineering, and we also carry partnerships with the best higher education schools in Paris, France, in Saclay for engineering, artificial intelligence, and other disciplines of the kind. And through these partnerships between innovation, research, and education, it's a whole future generation of engineers from Kenya who will be working on the new models of artificial intelligence and solutions for climate resilience, which is a good thing for the country and the region. So France is mobilizing its know-how in key sectors for growth and innovation in Kenya. Energy infrastructures, digital infrastructures, which are your priorities, and that's the reason for which French businesses are investing and believe in the potential of Kenya. CMA, CGM, which has just committed to renovate 2 terminals of the Mombasa port for a total investment of 700 million euro. Meridiam, which is going to extend the second largest wind farm in the country for $225 million. And in total, through all of these projects, there's over 1 billion euros worth of investment that have just been signed. The projects, the contracts we have signed today, which is a result of the past month's work or year's work, have allowed us to improve the livelihood of Kenyans through a new electrical plant, a power plant, and the new railway and signaling system to release the pressure on the capital, the renovation of the Masinga Dam, the new digital highway to extend the fiber connection to most of the country, and a partnership on long-lasting fuels, on sustainable fuels, between our respective companies, and the improvement of our partnership for climate monitoring and weather monitoring to be put to good use for smart agriculture, and our partnership in the production of tea, the sophistication, the upgrading and the increasing of the added value of your tea through the partnerships that we have signed. And talking about power and energy, the partnership that we've just signed is one in the field of civil nuclear energy. Partnerships by Meridian for wind farms. Well, there's our common will to build something long-lasting, and this is our partnership for civil nuclear energy. What I'm saying here, Mr. President, is that you're partnering with France and committing to France is something that testifies to your trust and something that we consider important, because civil nuclear energy in France is something that we've been building since after World War II, and that we've very often shared with trustworthy partners, and this allows us today to produce 75% of our electricity in France, which is low carbon. And when we talk about civil nuclear energy, we're talking about something essential for our country. So we know how to produce it in a safe way, in a sustainable way, in a fully secure way, and this is not something that we're selling. It's something we use at home with public companies, state companies that have deployed this. So over and above what the President said, what I wanted to remind you about our bilateral partnership, as you probably understood, is an opportunity for us to build a wider partnership through the organization of this first Africa Forward Summit. And tomorrow evening, Mr. President, you were kind enough to welcome 35 heads of state and government from Africa, and 50 or so delegations that will be coming as well and be mobilized as well. The first day we will have a day at the University of Nairobi to highlight the different partnerships between companies or initiatives heralded by companies. We will have a CEO forum with over 6,000 participants, which is totally unprecedented on the continent, and you can be very proud of it. This goes to show the attractiveness of Kenya and of this partnership. We also have innovations which will be presented, and the African youth will have an opportunity to speak up, and we'll talk about sports, industry, culture, and anything creative, and there will also be creative things with PPPs, public and private funding. And we will also make announcements of new investments by French companies on the African continent and investment by African companies in Europe. And the second day at the International Conference Center, the KICC, will be working on seeing how to advance towards finding a solution to the international crisis, and the UN Secretary General will be present as well. And we'll work on how we can reform the international financial infrastructure, and we will defend this at the upcoming G7 meeting in 1 month's time. And then we will try and speed up the reform of the African financial infrastructure with the African Development Bank. We'll talk about health, sovereignty, competitiveness, connectivity. I mean, this is a real premiere. And only by the number of people mobilized, heads of state, CEOs, I mean, this is a real premiere and already a great success. So, how exciting to look at the future, and I would like to thank you, Mr. President. Now, tufa ni kazi pamoja. Asanteni sana.
With your permission, Your Excellencies, we'll now take
Avec votre permission, nous allons prendre 3 questions de la part des membres.
House you represent. Question as short and crisp as possible. To the questions.
Monsieur le Président, ici. Oui, je m'appelle Emmanuel, Post Citizen TV. Just one question. Are you concerned that some of the countries in the Western Africa region are not part of this conversation? You know, those countries in the Sahel region. Just that question. And to my President William Ruto, how is this going to affect our partnership with other bilateral friends? And of course, how does it fit into your plan to transform Kenya into the first world country, because you've mentioned it. Thank you.
Do we take all the questions at once, or one and we answer?
Your Excellencies, if with your permission, we can take the three, then have them answered all at once. So if we can move to the next two questions, please.
Bonjour, hello, Cyril Ben-Simon de TV5 Monde. Une question, first question to President Ruto. With President Macron, you have now a long relation. You've just signed several MOU on different issues, but what makes France a different partner from the others, up to you? Au Président Macron, une question. Avec ce sommet Africa Forward au Kenya, vous confirmez votre volonté d'ouvrir la diplomatie et l'économie française à d'autres horizons, mais n'est-ce pas aussi une manière d'éviter l'Afrique francophone?
Avoiding the French-speaking part of Africa, where France found itself in trouble recently.
France Télévisions, la question s'adresse au président Emmanuel Macron. Nous venons d'apprendre que l'Iran menace...
With immediate response in the case of French and British deployment in the Strait of Hormuz. But this means that the mission of Charles de Gaulle is no longer valid, and does this question the mere principle of the maritime coalition? And of course, with the recent events in Algeria, are you optimistic for the framework for the journalist called Christophe Glaise, and will you return soon to Algeria? Thank you.
Between Kenya and France is a relationship between friends, and in Kenya, and Kenya has interests in a relationship with France. And I have said this is a relationship that has been built since our independence. France has been our friend. It's among the first countries to recognize Kenya's independence, and they have walked with us that journey ever since. And therefore, we have relationships with other countries, we have relationships with other partners, but the relationship with France is special. Special because there is a very personal relationship between President Macron, myself, and Kenya. And that relationship has earned us the place where we are today, the first summit signaling a shift to a broader, much more inclusive relationship with Africa, recalibrated with the understanding of respect for sovereignty, being a relationship that is mutually beneficial, and a relationship that recognizes Africa's position and priorities is what we are having here. And President Macron chose Kenya because of that very special relationship. And number two is because we have a robust development program between France and Kenya. France has supported our energy generation. France has supported health issues in our country, transport issues in our nation. We've just signed off education, a robust education program that will cover our universities and our TVETs, very well aligned with the priorities of my administration and the priorities of Vision 2030. Kenyan vision. On the airport, we have agreed on what to do in the airport space. We have agreed on what to do on agriculture space, smart agriculture. We share very common positions on the reform of the international financial architecture. I have taken time to brief my brother, President Macron, on the National Infrastructure Fund, a mechanism we established recently, and how they can participate so that we can leverage more resources. And I'm truly grateful that he has offered to work with us and work with the Africa Development Bank, which I met earlier today, to assist ATIDI, which is our insurance facility, so that mechanisms such as the National Infrastructure Fund, which targets Kenya's development, can be assisted to leverage private sector resources, pension resources, insurance resources, crowding in with other partners so that we can have adequate resources to run our development program. And therefore, this Africa-French Summit and the bilateral relations between Africa and France speaks to Kenya's transformation, because the tenets and the aspirations of the summit and the relationship between France and Kenya and the relationship between President Macron and myself are very key to unlocking the potential for us to be able to drive our development. And I have briefed my brother, President Macron, on matters to do with transport and logistics, energy, and agricultural transformation. You have been following what I have been canvassing in Kenya, and those are the three primary areas of investment that we are targeting if we are to move Kenya to a first world country. On transport and logistics, you've already seen the signing of the agreement on the rail, the commuter rail in Nairobi, the discussions we've had on the airport, the discussions we've had on the port of Mombasa and other ports. That speaks to my first pillar of transport and logistics. You've also heard that we are leveraging on France's technology and long-term engagement with nuclear energy. You heard President Macron say 75% of their energy is nuclear energy. Save nuclear energy. And this is a program they have engaged in since the Second World War. Therefore, Kenya is going to benefit from France's understanding of nuclear energy as I drive the transformation of our country. You know very well, I have said we need to generate 10,000 megawatts of energy in the next 7 years, and one of the interventions is going to be in nuclear energy as we expand our generation in geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar. And finally, on matters to do with the agricultural transformation, I'm very happy that our tea farmers will soon be getting better prices from their purple tea and all the other farmers in that space. I'm very happy with the agreement that has been signed. But I've also explained to President Macron that there exists investment opportunities in our dam construction, because we now have a water purchase agreement for commercial water. And we are looking at companies from France that can work with us on the construction of the 50 mega dams that I have announced, so that we can take the transformation of Kenya in the right direction. Finally, somebody has asked me what is different between France and others. Every relationship is unique, and therefore we have different relationships with different people. And I keep being asked this question: are you looking east or are you looking west? And my standard answer is that we are looking forward.
As for the first question, Emmanuel, I want just to clarify the fact that Western African countries will be present. I mean, President of Senegal, President of Ivory Coast, President of Gabon, President of DRC, and many others will be here. It's hard to say that Western Africa will not be present in this room. You have 3 countries, and I do regret that. which decided, because of the coup and the behaviors of the military people in charge, to put them aside from the rest of the club, by the way, aside of ECOWAS as well and others. It doesn't mean that West Africa is not part of this meeting. The biggest leaders of Western Africa will be here. And beyond that, we've been very vigilant to have civil society, even from Sahel states, being present. Because we can disagree with some of these governments, quote to quote, but we never disagree with people. We love these people. In Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. So all these people are involved in this conference and in this summit, and we will have a lot of intellectuals, academics, artists, entrepreneurs coming from these countries being present. C'est un peu dans la continuité que je répondrai à votre question. Je n'ai jamais pris
as being just one block. Our backyard. And this is something I said as of November in the speech I gave in Ouagadougou. So we have no desire with this Africa Forward Summit after the one that was held in Montpellier in 2021. There's no desire to hide anything. No, it's just a way of saying Africa is a whole, and we are really Pan-African, and we believe that Africa is a continent, and that the continent has a lot to build, with the youngest population in the world, a fantastic demographic dividend, and with the greatest growth in the world. The growth of Africa was just higher than Southeast Asia. So we have to take a different look at Africa. And indeed, it is a continent that I want no longer France to consider it as our backyard, quote unquote, and in which our CEOs would have guaranteed contracts or partnerships because it would be in French-speaking countries. No, or because France would give some kind of guarantee or insurance that things would happen. No, and that's over since 2017, because way before 2017, our companies had started losing market shares in French-speaking African countries because Africa is a competitive ground. I mean, and rightly so, and because I believe that we need a well-balanced partnership and a fair partnership so that